I'm Robert Vaughn, and this is how it happened.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was basically started because of the success of the Bond pictures, Dr. No in particular.
James Bond spelled it out. James Bond was the template, really, for everything that followed.
It started with Ian Fleming, and not many people know that. Norman Felton, who was head of Arena Productions and was the most prolific producer at MGM, got in touch with Ian Fleming.
They got Fleming to come over, and we met in New York and spent time there.
And talked to him about doing an American television series.
I walked a lot with Fleming in New York because he had had a heart attack and he was supposed to walk, and I got so tired of walking around Manhattan.
He wanted to devise an espionage show, and who better than Ian Fleming to talk to?
But then he'd go telling stories about how he worked for the M1 and the Admiralty during the war. And he'd tell me a lot of stories about the things like that happened in his life. He'd never get him back to the thing we were there for, you know, till finally one evening I went up and I borrowed a typewriter and I sat at a typewriter and I wrote. And the next day I showed them to him and he said, "Hey, they're pretty good. I wish I'd like to borrow a couple of those. I have to go now and write another novel and I can't think of anything." I said, "Well, you can lay off these are mine." And he laughed. And he said, "Let me take him and come back this afternoon." And he handed me some telegraph blanks.
And Ian Fleming contributed the character name of Napoleon Solo.
But I thought, why Napoleon? He said, "Well, it's a good name, you know. It goes well with Solo."
So the series was supposed to be called Mr. Solo, at various times just Solo. In fact, there's a version of the pilot that exists where the title comes on and literally says Solo.
What I didn't know was that Solo was a name that appeared in one of his James Bond books.
In Goldfinger.
For a character who was a bad man. But he never told me that.
So United Artists wasn't happy about this because that fall, which is when Solo was supposed to premiere, was also, come December, the time when Goldfinger was going to be coming out with that character in it. So United Artists was not happy about this, and they contacted Norman Felton and said, "You can't do this, you can't have a show called Solo."
Fleming withdrew from the project, and I saw a letter that he wrote where it said for the sum of £1 and other considerations, he was quitclaiming all of the information that he'd discussed with Norman Felton to be used as the basis for a television show.
And then I got Sam Rolfe involved.
And he created the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
U.N.C.L.E. is an organization consisting of agents of all nationalities.
And I sat down and I started to write a little prospectus. When I got up from the typewriter, maybe 3-4 days later, I had typed something like 67 pages. And I gave it to Norm. Norm was awed. He didn't expect anything but this. Being Norman, he wanted more. He came back and said, "Can you give me a lot of springboards? A little more." So I added a few more pages of ideas and spring. Before I was through, he had the whole package.
And that's how it started.
And so was born the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
The United Network Command for Law and Enforcement, commonly known as Man from U.N.C.L.E.
U.N.C.L.E. meant nothing when I started. The reason I picked the U.N.C.L.E. was because there are two thoughts that spring when you hear it in a story like this. One is United Nations, and the other is Uncle Sam. And you could think anything you wanted about it. Then I kept getting requests for the meaning of U.N.C.L.E. Now, I wasn't allowed to use the United Nations, so I made
the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement.
And then filled in the rest. Yeah.
On a street in the East 40s, there's an ordinary tailor shop.
You'd go into the tailor shop and then go through the doors and into the back.
Or is it ordinary?
My name is Napoleon Solo. I'm an enforcement agent in Section 2 here. That's operations and enforcement.
And I know that Norman was going for Bob Vaughn almost from the beginning, because Bob Vaughn, when he was younger, looked so well. The idea was a guy who looks well in a tuxedo.
On business of Dr. Kildare, I was in London. A lady came to me and said, "Why is it in America that you always have leading men who are sexy, so-called looking fellows? Why? And why are they always American?" I said, "I don't know." When it came to do The Man from U.N.C.L.E, I thought, I'm not going to do it. And that's what made me like both of them, that they were slim and they were not big, ballsy men.
I am Illya Kuryakin. I am also an enforcement agent. Like my friend Napoleon, I go and I do whatever I am told to.
Way, way back, I don't know how many years, but it's between 40 and 50 years ago, I came to the United States. I played Judas Iscariot for George Stevens and came over, and we did it in Culver City. And I'd just come from doing The Great Escape in Europe, and Charlie Bronson was one of my closer friends and took me over to the MGM commissary, and I met Norman Felton. Norman Felton had seen my work, so he knew that I could perform, and I had enough of a reputation. The part also was 2 lines.
An assault force from THRUSH. That is their way.
And the only thing in the script it said was that he was Russian. So it's not a problem, you know, you start doing Russian for Norman at the table. He says, fine, no problem, you know. And so, and the other thing was he had a collection of jazz records under the bed. That's all.
Would you oblige me, please?
Oh, no, I don't know how to open it either. See, that humidor belongs to a friend of mine. He just lets me carry it.
A most difficult decision.
What are you going to do?
Gamble with our lives.
At that point, I'd worked originally as a comedy writer, and I went in and I met with his story editor on the show, who had a notion about a girl who worked in the organization who wanted to become a covert operative.
Mandy wants very much to find the romance and glamour of espionage work.
So would I.
And from that, I developed with the story editor a thing which became the Never Never Affair, which I then went on to write the script. And I met Sam during the process of doing the story, and we kind of hit it off, and I did the script, which they liked very much. So I did a rewrite on another show, which was called the Gazebo and the Maze Affair, which is the very end of the first season. And on the basis of that, they made me the designated writer on the show. I then came on as the sole staff writer in the second year, although there was another writer, Peter Allen Fields, who had done a number of episodes.
Peter came to be a writer for the show in a very odd way. He was a lawyer for the William Morris office. Anyway, he met Sam Rolfe, and there was some discussion ensued about Peter possibly writing something for the show.
Sam gave me a script and said, "You rewrite this." I had never seen a script before. I said, "Yeah, sure."
He'd never written a script, so he didn't know how long you were supposed to take, so he wrote 4 acts of U.N.C.L.E. in 4 days and brought it back, and that's the way they shot it.
And the only thing that was changed in the whole script was that Ken Murray smoked a cigar, not a cigarette.
You've been waving yourself around in front of me like a flag for weeks now. For the last time, I'm telling you, the only thrush I ever heard of is the one that sings in a tree.
And that's the only thing that changed. No dialogue, no nothing.
And he was immediately hired because in his infinite finite ignorance, he had done something no one else had ever done before. He'd written a 65-page script in 4 days that was shootable. And that's how he started to work on the show.
Boris Segal, who was a wonderful guy, a great director. Boris and I were friends. We worked at MGM at the time, doing a lot of shows. And he told me he was doing this great pilot. And I went and visited him a couple of times. I knew after Boris did the pilot, I got a call from Sam Rolfe, would I like to do the first show? And lo and behold, I did. And it became part of my life for a long time.
Yes, my name is Solo.
I have absolutely no recollection as to when I first met Robert Vaughn. I would imagine it would have been in the commissary. Everything happened in the commissary. Probably having a Gene Kelly sandwich or whatever, those wonderful names they put on everything.
Yes, they had a sandwich named after me, which was just a terrible sandwich. And I immediately sent a memo to Robert Whiteman, who's the head of the studio. I said, either change the name of the sandwich or eliminate it from the menu because it's embarrassing. I don't know why I would get so excited about a sandwich. I don't know, but I was.
McCallum and Vaughn, I think, are interesting because
neither actor ever commented on being cute, funny, delightful, charming, etc.
They were both really exceptional actors.
I think someone like Vaughn, in particular, is very suited for television.
Professional.
Now, let's get down to business.
Charming.
Gee, I love that perfume you're wearing.
Could con you out of anything or into anything.
At one point, he put a sign on his dressing room door because he was deeply into his thesis. And it said, if you knock, you'd better have a very good reason. And so I went to the same sign painters and I got them to put a sign up that said, pastry cook required, apply within. And I don't think he saw the humor of it.
I would have seen the humor, but maybe I didn't see it.
That really isn't funny.
What's that? Your timer?
My conscience.
It's a very interesting relationship because over the, 3.5 years we did that show, we never really became deeply socially involved because we're so different.
We knew each other professionally, but we did not know each other in any way past that, socially in any way. And it fortunately worked out that we became great good friends as a result of the success of the series and the result of our combined efforts making it a success.
Somewhere there's a memory stirring.
Well, let's just not wait for memories.
When the opportunity came along to do The Man From U.N.C.L.E, I thought, this is great.
Well, I knew David because I'd loved him in Freud. I'd seen the picture, and I thought he photographed sensation. I thought he really was beautiful on the screen. I mean, it wasn't anything terribly tense, but I mean, it was an optical thing. And then everybody in town wanted the role of Judas Iscariot in The Greatest Story Ever Told. I being one of the ones that wanted it. He got it, so I knew of him beforehand. Freud and Greatest Story Ever Told. Whether you knew of me or not, I don't know.
Well, actually, I didn't.
Well, there you are.
A provocative beginning to an ordinary day's work.
And I was surprised when they got David McCallum.
You've caught a very big fish, Mr. Waverly.
They had no idea that David would be working with anyone, and I'll tell you why. His role in the pilot film, the one that was okayed by NBC, was literally under a minute in screen time.
The producer of the show, Sam Rolfe and Norman Felton, were unhappy with the man who ran the U.N.C.L.E. organization.
Will Kaluva was playing Mr. Waverly in the beginning.
All the prisoners here, Mr. Kuryakin.
And I was Illya Kuryakin.
When NBC first saw him in the pilot, they wanted to replace him. Not because he was Russian, but because he had long hair. So they said, you have to
get rid of the foreign guy, we don't like him. I believe they meant me.
They called NBC and they said, we have replaced Kaluva.
And brought in Leo G. Carroll.
Because he thought they meant Kuryakin. So they were startled when the dailies came out, and here's David McCallum playing Illya Kuryakin.
And having survived that moment,
David became a huge star in relationship to the show.
As the show went on the air in September of '64, it was quite apparent there were a lot of fan mail coming in for the mysterious Illya Kuryakin.
David took off with the public. We could sense the response. We could see the mail. We'd take him someplace and there was a mob forming.
So they had no intention of making Illya Kuryakin a co-starring role, which of course it became very quickly in the first year of the show. It just came from audience response to David's interpretation of the role.
After we saw the chemistry, Sam and Norman saw the chemistry of the two guys together, it became pretty obvious that they were in many ways a team and deserved similar credit.
I'll give you 2 minutes to get to Mr. Waverly, then I'll start up the stairs. Good luck.
And my deal with David was that he will be a secondary character. Well, I promised him one thing. I said, you won't stand around waiting for somebody to send you down to the corner to bring back sandwiches. Yeah. When you're in a scene, it's going to be about something, or you're not going to be in the scene.
Alexander Waverly, number 1, section 1, in charge of this, our New York headquarters.
If I were to find the perfect mirror image of Norman Felton, it would be Leo G. Carroll.
Leo G. Carroll brings to the role of Waverly a kind of calm, a sense of connection with an older generation.
It's from here that I send these young men on their various missions.
But an older generation that is sophisticated.
They've both had that twinkle and that brightness, that smartness.
He was just this magic character that came into your life.
Their idea was to prevent me from acting with some new information we just received. Here, you can have the information. Then Thrush can try and kill you for a while.
And I went up to him and I said, "Did you see the show last night?" He said, "Oh, yes, I did." I said, "What did you think of it?" He said, "I hated my hat." And that gave me a great insight into working with actors.
His feet never touched the ground.
Mr. Waverly has a cousin who wears polka dot pajamas.
Well, we all have our weaknesses.
My favorite story of Leo was when we came to the hiatus. I said to him, "What are you going to do this summer? Are you going away?" He said, "No, my wife and I are just going to stay home and watch each other fall apart."
And basically, that's what we did during the vacation. We watched each other fall apart.
There goes the fellows in the black hats again.
It was just smart producing, smart writing at a time when everybody was looking for unique TV shows.
I don't see her in here.
I want to check the other eye, you Steve.
The scene was a notion of mine. It just struck me as an amusing idea to have a shootout in the middle of a movie theater. And I'd never seen it done before. This was considered to be something of a turning point in the tone of the show, because when NBC looked at the show, they say, "Well, that's the way we want the show."
Excuse me.
And the show had such a success, and we were all having a good time. We said, "Hey, let's give ourselves a run. Let's be in the show." And everybody was in. Sam was in it. Norman Felton was in. I was in. Joe Calvelli was in.
Do you mind if I have this one for the rope?
Yes, I do. No, you can't. Out, 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 out,
Very
out.
well, Marion, but I'm not going anywhere until somebody fills this up.
Well, I believe somebody already has.
Hey, that was my jacket. I was thrown out of the Screen Actors Guild after that.
I think U.N.C.L.E. has an important place in the evolution of television. It's very much of its moment. It is very much the kind of flagship of a new genre. It also has a lasting influence on the way that people look at the world.
That boy just never stops looking for trouble, does he?
Well, he's safe now, in the arms of the law.
It was a wonderful time of my life. I really loved it. Best 4 years of my life.